Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Krystle Ramos. I am Director of Partner and Business Development for First Billing Services. FBS is a leading provider of bill payment and citizen engagement solutions for local government. So I'm excited about our topic and our panelists joining us today. We've all been dealing with the demands of this pandemic and our local and state responses to it, and I think it's safe to say it's uncharted territory. But as local offices closed, citizens and business owners were left unaware of how best to connect with their county and their city to register for services or pay bills and fees, or even how to access their bills. And services and technologies that were nice to haves before the pandemic have become have to haves. But how do you make that leap? And what are the effects of trying to essentially force feed technologies on your community? So one of the organizations that are most prepared to help bridge these gaps are Chamber of Commerce's. And they're probably the most forward thinking and resourceful group that you'll have to work with in any time, but especially during the pandemic. So today we have Heidi McCutcheon, Executive Director of the Shelton-Mason County Chamber of Commerce in Shelton, Washington. And she's going to give us some insight on how the Chamber has worked with local government, with businesses, and with citizens. She wears many hats, including economic developer and planner, tourist information center, business spokesperson, government relations specialist, economic counselor and teacher, human resource advisor, public relations practitioner, and of course, all other duties as assigned, including Zoom panelists. So Heidi, thank you so much for being on with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So what has been the biggest challenge for the Chamber in reconnecting the community with businesses and government during the lockdown, and how have you pivoted?
So I think the most obvious challenge is that restrictions for in-person activities means that traditional events are not allowed. One of the things that we're part of, but also many of our businesses and particularly the nonprofit organizations are involved with, is fundraisers and fundraisers. So within the Chamber itself, Blues and Brews was a 2-year-old festival that we created. And I think, Krystle, that you've been there before also. But it was designed to bring people into downtown. And it was, that was hit immediately by COVID as the cancellation hit. We also have Expo, which is a 15-year-old event that brings all of our businesses downtown. It's kind of a street fair feel that allows them to interact with the community in a non-threatening fashion, so that people can go through, talk with the different business owners, find out what's happening and how to move forward. Our Holiday Magic celebration, which is our shopping season, it's happening right now, as you can see in that photo. Back in the day, we shut down Main Street and created a shopping atmosphere, had s'mores and such that were out. And I'm happy to say that while some of the traditional means of closing the street down, having the parade, et cetera, is not there, it's one of the most recent places that we have pivoted. So last year, to rewind a bit, we were successful in a Guinness Book of World Records goal, I guess, where we had the most lit Christmas trees in one area. We didn't plan to redo that this year, but one of the things that we did within that was a Christmas tree maze, which by all Department of Health infrastructure, the maze is something that is safely COVID. So it's outdoors, there's natural 6-foot barriers between that. And so we were able to pivot away from some of the traditional means that were more crowd gathering and make it so that it is safer in its approach.
Awesome.
So one of the first things that we've looked for is non-traditional solutions and platforms to deliver those services. So we've relied heavily on remote opportunities and mobile-friendly options. I think this is something that all of us have become very familiar with, although there was a point in time that it was very novel and new. So we've looked for the opportunity for online programs and such. Our community very much relies on Facebook for information, for access to different things and to get the inside scoop. We had already been successful with a Facebook community group called Mason County Job Seekers. So when the shutdown hit, one of the first things that we did was look at what is the information people will need. And so we created a Mason County takeout page, which had nearly 1,000 people in the first week. We also created a Mason County learning resources, and there we're able to share different information as far as technology. We can look at sharing some of the opportunities that are available via both from national means, like Home Depot's done a couple of things. There's been some coding online courses that have been available, and just being able to share all of those and that information.
Yeah, and I've noticed that too. I initially heard of, a lot of students not even having access to the internet, not having, they may get their Chromebook from the school, but how are they going to connect? And watching the chamber really put that information out on platforms like Facebook, where obviously with mobile phones and everyone has one of those, they can still get that information and connect to those resources. So I was very proud of the work that you guys have done with that, especially with our kids and our education system. So thank you for that. So cities and counties, of course, are reporting huge revenue and budget shortfalls this year, mostly because of lost revenue from utility payments and property and sales tax, licensing, permitting, parks and rec, all those things, and also having to spend money on COVID expenses that were completely unforeseen. Of course, small businesses have been impacted the most directly by the loss of revenue. So what are some suggestions for re-engaging with citizens and customers going forward that can help businesses and local government recover while also allowing people to feel connected to their community in our new normal?
So first and foremost, we've been encouraging our governments and municipalities to talk the talk and walk the walk, choosing to shop local and supporting friends and neighbors, all of the nonprofits and the community organizations that are supported. Purchases that are made locally, whether in person, curbside and pickup, or even shopped online and delivered here, support our local programs and infrastructure. We have a number of different data that talks about how shopping local, well, one, for government, it seems to be a no-brainer. Oftentimes people, when we talk about business cards, for instance, the first thing that comes to mind is Vistaprint, which you can get probably about 10% cheaper than what the local print shop can do, just for the pure volume that they do. However, when we know that it is created in Mason County, that's nearly a 10% savings up front, just because of the sales tax that's going back to the municipality. So we've encouraged our governments to shop local, support local, and look at ways that they can support infrastructure within Mason County itself. We've also worked with our local governments to make small changes, ease regulations for curbage, signage. So we've had a lot of our restaurants who have taken over what was traditional parking spaces and allow them to utilize some of that space to pivot, which is the year of 2020, or the word of 2020, I think, and find some of those adaptive solutions. And we've also asked them to replace inspections and penalties with wellness checks. Instead of coming in and looking for something that's wrong, coming in and seeing what may be wrong and then see what they can do to help and assist. And so just kind of twisting that into a customer service atmosphere instead of a regulatory atmosphere has gone a long way for helping and assisting our businesses.
Wow. Yeah, that's great advice. So what kind of adoption have you seen in the business and the service community with online selling and bill payment? Because obviously that's the industry I'm in, and I'm curious, knowing a lot of small businesses in Mason County and in Shelton, really didn't think about going online, didn't think about selling online until this hit, and now they're really forced to find a way to do that. So how have you assisted in that, and what kind of adoption have you seen?
So selling and paying online is something that's become expected at every level of transaction. where we used to go to the store, pick up things and such. Now people are like, man, I have to walk across to the table and pick up my wallet and plug it in to my browser. So even those who have been uncomfortable and in many cases remain uncomfortable, utilizing online tools and finding what has to be done to remain competitive has become oftentimes the difference between a business continuing to thrive and survive versus losing everything. Facebook and now owns WhatsApp, which is a messaging tool that's used most in the entire world. It's not so common in the United States, but they're actually gearing up right now with different methods of purchasing things online. Pinterest has really moved forward as far as allowing people to not only showcase their DIYs, but also being able to allow people to purchase them online. So lots and lots of different abilities to create the means for people to utilize those tools, but continue to try and help them become more comfortable with those.
And I've seen a good integration of social media platforms connecting with a person's new website or new Shopify or whatever platform they're using for online e-commerce. And I've seen a good integration too, because we seem to go to the social media platforms, especially in a small community, go there first, and then we have the opportunity to go, make the purchase online or get some curbside delivery or whatever the method is. So it seemed to work well.
Certainly. We've also seen there's a council for online connectedness that talks about how recently businesses have said 31% would have closed without the digital tools that have become available to them. They're talking about how digital tools are being utilized to find new customers, and have become to rely more on those tools. So I think all of us with Zoom have had that firsthand experience, but also an array of different apps and tools to be able to keep us on point, on schedule, and moving forward through our day. That's what's online is just a continuance of what we'll continue to see trends moving forward.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the increase. We knew it was coming, the increase in mobile payments and people with smartphones and people paying bills on their phone and so on. And I think that's obviously going to continue into 2021 in the future. So it just kind of escalated it. But now we're really seeing all of that come to fruition and people really not having issue with it like they did in the past out of necessity mostly, but definitely something that we're excited about for the future. So Heidi, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really informative. Thank you for the optics too. I know that kind of helps us, engage a little more with what you're speaking to. And if anyone has any questions after the fact, please submit them through the chat here. And we also have an email that we'll send out with this video on demand that you can respond back and we can address any further questions. And we'd love to talk to you. So thank you guys very much and have a great rest of your week.